Hello, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Kyla, and today we are going to talk about all of the books that I read in the month of October. I read 7 books this month, which, to be honest, is not as many as I thought I was going to read. However, I had some things happening this month. I was a busy little bee, and this is what I read, and I am so happy with what I read. Like, quality over quantity sometimes. Am I right? I'm right. I do have monumental reading plans. If you haven't seen my November TBR video, I will link it in the cards above because, oh my word, I set some high goals for myself. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to them all, but we will see. But this video, we're going to talk about all of the books that I read in October. I'm going to divvy this up into genres. That way, in case you're interested in one over the other, they'll be time-stamped below, so you can just click on which one you would like. So let's go ahead and dive in. The first genre that we're going to talk about is memoir, because I actually did listen to one memoir on audio this month, and that was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. Y'all already know. I really don't even feel like I need to give my 2 cents with this book, but I did read it. It's hard to say that I enjoyed it because honestly, so disturbing. So disturbing, but like, more power to her for sharing her truth and what she went through. Like, truly brave, strong, incredible woman she is. I did not watch iCarly when I was younger. That was way past my time. Aging myself. I'm so aging myself. But that was past my time. However, I always like to listen to memoirs from people, even if I don't necessarily have their whole life story, just because you just never know if you can relate to what the person has gone through or anything like that, and I just love to give it time. Plus, it's been everywhere, and my hold came off on my library, so I was like, why not? Of course, yes please. And obviously, like I said, it's hard for me to say that I loved it because it was so disturbing, but I think it was extremely well done. Like I said, her sharing her truth is truly incredible, and I'm glad that she was able to talk about all of those things, from her eating disorder to what happened on set for her. I just feel like so many people, especially in the industry, can relate to that, especially just people growing up in general as well. It's just, I love when people, especially in the spotlight, share their story, because you just never know who it can reach. I gave it 5 stars, obviously. Any memoir that I read will pretty much hands down get a 5-star, because I just find it rude to rate someone's life otherwise. I've said that a few times before, but 5 stars. Moving on, we read some fantasy this month, and one of the reasons why I've only read 7 books this month is because of this first one being the mammoth of a book that it is, and that is A Court of Wings and Ruin. This is the 3rd in the A Court of Thorn and Roses series. I am slowly making my way through this series. I'm taking it at a snail's pace because I know that I'm going to be so sad when it's over. I do have the other 2 on deck. The next one is a little novella, and then whatever. Anyways, but this was the one that I read this month. I read at the beginning of the month, and it took me a little bit longer to read because this is over 700 pages. What do I even say? 5 out of 5 stars. This is my favorite of the series so far, and I can say that confidently. This is my favorite. I loved this one so much because we get everything in this one. We get war, we get love, we get loss, we have family drama, friend drama, we have the magic system kind of expanding, we have the world expanding or coming together, but also falling apart. We have so many loose ends getting, I want to say tied up, but brought together in this book, and oh, so well done. So well done. I loved it. I loved that we got everything. I also loved that there wasn't too much spice in it. Don't get me wrong. There's a time and a place for Mist and Fury, but like that book, spicy, seductive. This book, of course, had a little bit, but it was more so about everything else that was going on, and I think that's why I enjoyed it so much, and it's just my favorite. My favorite, for, at least so far, out of the three, this one's my favorite. I freaking loved it. Obsessed. 5 out of 5 stars, obviously. And then the next fantasy read this month was The Witch Haven, because of course I had to dive into some witchy, magical books, and I picked up The Witch Haven because I heard so many good things and it did not disappoint. I gave this 4.5 stars. I freaking loved it so much. This book is following Frances, who works as a seamstress, and her boss is just kind of like grimy and gross and just like a rat of a human. And one night she is working late and he starts to come on to her, and the next thing she knows, he is dead at her feet with her scissors in his neck. She doesn't know how it happened, and then 2 women come and whisk her away to what they say is a sanitarium, but actually ends up being a witch school. So we are following Frances as she's learning to use her powers that she just figured out that she had, as well as unraveling a mystery underneath all of this that happened to her brother. Her brother passed away and they never caught who did it. So you're unraveling this mystery while also following her, trying to figure out how to use her powers, getting adjusted to the school, making friends, doing all of that. It's so cute, and I love the dual plot line. But what I will say is I wish there was a little bit more magic in this. There was still some, of course, because she's learning to use her powers and there have the other girls in the school and that kind of thing. I just wish it was a little bit more. However, a sequel did just come out, and I have a feeling that one is probably going to be jam-packed with magic. So for what it was, I think it was great. I loved it. I loved the characters. I loved all of them. There's also a little bit of a kind of love triangle happening going on, and some good twists and turns and whatever. So all in all, loved it. Gave it 4.5 stars. And I would highly recommend if you are looking for a witchy read this season. And if you have read this and you've read the sequel, let me know what you thought in the comments about the sequel. I haven't read it yet. I hope to read it in November. No spoilers, please, but let me know which one out of the 2 was your fave. And then the last fantasy that I read this month was The Night Circus, and I have a reading vlog where I read this and also read The Witch Haven. I did like a magical kind of reading vlog, so if you're interested in that, I will have it linked below as well as in the cards. But yeah, I read The Night Circus. This had been on my TBR shelf for over a year. I bought this last October and then never ended up reading it. I tried to read it during like the springtime and it just was not the vibe, obviously, so I held off, and I'm sad to say I didn't love it as much as I thought I was going to. I gave this 2.5 stars, and really the 2.5 stars comes from the freaking atmosphere in this, because the atmosphere in this is chef's kiss perfection. You have the vibes of the circus and that coming to life, as well as the magic happening throughout the story, as well as the vibes of like the 1800s and that kind of thing. And there's also a little bit of like a dual plot line happening throughout this. So those are the things that I really enjoyed. Other than that, that's where my enjoyment ended. Is marketed as like high stakes, and I just kept waiting for something to happen and nothing really did. And then when the big happenings at the end happened, I was like, oh, that's it. And this book is what, 400 and something pages long? Like that, I read all of that just to amount to this one thing, and like, cool, bro. Also, there's a bit of a romance happening throughout this, and like, I did not ship it like whatsoever. No, thank you. So yeah, 2.5 stars, gorgeous writing, amazing atmosphere. I can understand why some people love it. It just was not for me. It didn't do it for me. I was bored for most of this. and the only thing that kept me going was like knowing that everyone said there was like this huge high stakes ending, but I didn't enjoy the ending. So unfortunately, 2.5 stars, and do not come at me for that. You know what? If this is your favorite book, I am so happy for you. It just did not work for me. Okay, let's dive into the thrillers, mysteries, spooky reads. I do have a few of them. The first one is the audiobook that I chose to listen to for the Monster Mash Weekendween, which I do have a vlog for. It is up already, so I will also link that below as well as in the cards. There was lots of vlogs this month. And so the audiobook that I chose for that as one of the prompts was The Patient by Jasper DeWitt. And I gave this one 3 stars. I really enjoyed the writing style of it. It's written almost in like blog post form. So, and the audiobook is built into like those chapters, so it gives you the date and then he reads off like his blog or whatever. And I really like that. I know some people don't really enjoy that writing style, but I thought it was really interesting, especially being from like a psychiatrist standpoint. It's like he was documenting his experience day by day with this patient, which I thought was really cool and just like a cool way to do it. So this book is following Parker, and Parker is a young psychiatrist, and he gets assigned to work at this asylum where it has this infamous patient named Joe who like no one can go near or they die. Like everyone who has had contact with this patient has passed away or like gone insane one way or another. So it's documenting him deciding that he wants to take on Joe and figure out why he's been at this asylum for so long, and also like what his story is. Can he help him, because he had this like ever need to help people. And it's really interesting. The beginning of it, I was so invested. I was so curious about what was going to happen, what was going to unfold, because a story like this can go in so many different directions. And then we get to like 70% in, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but it just went in a direction that is not my favorite by any means. With that being said, I do think even though the ending not being my favorite kind of storyline was done really well, and it was still captivating and interesting and held my attention. So even though it's not my thing, I do think that a lot of people will enjoy this book. I just can't give it 4 or 5 stars because it's not my favorite thing to read. I was a little bit disappointed when it did go in that direction. However, I do think that so many people will enjoy this. So it gets 3 stars. It held my attention. I love the blog post writing style. The beginning was hecka interesting and following his story, and also you get a little bit of his background as well as bringing you through his experience with this patient. It's just so interesting. But yeah, 3 stars overall. Wasn't my favorite ending, but I have a feeling people who haven't read this would love it. So definitely check it out if it is something you are interested in, because you might really enjoy it. And then the other book that I chose to read during the Monster Mash Weekendween was Kill Creek. This is by Scott Thomas. I was hoping for a Haunting of Hill House redemption because I did not enjoy that by any means, and I heard that this was really, really, really good, and I gave this 3 stars as well. It was good. It just was so dense. That's the word that I can use to describe this book because it just fits it perfectly. This book is so wordy and so overwritten, but so it like kind of makes sense because this book is following 4 horror authors who get invited to spend the night at this haunted house on Kill Creek by this like website. They're lured there thinking they're going to do an interview, and they get asked to stay the night, and you know, maybe things will happen, maybe they won't. There was a book written about this house way back in the day. It has like this notorious history to it. So they get invited to spend the night, do this interview, and then, you know, maybe share their experiences or whatever. So you have like this author, Scott Thomas, writing the book, but then you have the perspective of 4 authors who are also very wordy within themselves. So it's like words on top of words on top of words, and it it is just a lot. The writing is gorgeous, do not get me wrong. The descriptions in this book are so good, but there are just so many of them. There is a description for every tiny little thing, and it is like overly described with like, and it's just like such a meta thing. I can't even, like, you have authors on top of authors on top of authors, like it's just a lot. Regardless of that, the story itself was really intriguing, and it took a turn about halfway through that I was not expecting whatsoever, and it's not something I've seen in a haunted house story so far. So that really kept my attention going, despite it being very wordy, because I was like, oh my god, am I gonna DNF this? Like, it's so much, and like, just to get another kind of haunted house story. But then it took this turn, and I was like, okay, now I'm intrigued because I've never seen this before, and I'm interested to see where it goes. And the ending is a lot. The ending of this book, like the action-packed ending that you normally see at the end of books that like wraps everything up, normally like what, 50 pages, 60 pages long, sometimes shorter than that. This ending is like 150 pages long. It just keeps going and going and going and going and going. Again, just the words, but also just like everything keeps unfolding, and then there's twists on top of twists on top of twists. And it was just a lot. Dense. Dense is the word I'm going to describe this book with. It was so dense. So 3 stars. I enjoyed where it went, even though it was a lot. I enjoyed the kind of twist it took halfway through, because I was not expecting that, or to get that kind of experience with it. I enjoyed the writing. It is really good. It is just a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. There's also a few problematic things in this book that I did not really enjoy. There's a lot of fat shaming on one of the characters, which is just absolutely disgusting. Like, why? Unnecessary. Completely unnecessary. Also, some of the characters just say some problematic things that I was like, really? Do we really have to do that? I guess we're doing that, but like, can we not? So yeah. All in all, 3 stars, middle of the road. It was good. I think that some people will really enjoy it. I know this is some people's like favorite books, but I also just think that this is like a lot. So if you go into this, this is not going to be like a quick read by any means. Like, you're gonna need to take your time with it and really savor what's happening. And then the last book that I read in this like thriller mystery category, it was the next book in the Inheritance Game series, which is The Hawthorne Legacy, and I gave this 4 stars. I didn't enjoy it as much as the first one, but it was still really fun. It was still a really good time. There was still that level of like riddle and games happening throughout it, and I had to keep reminding myself that Avery is a teenager, okay? Girlfriend is 17 years old, so like, you know, she's getting into it with these brothers, and they're, you know, a bit of a love triangle happening. Started in the first one, happening throughout this one, and I'm like, man, but like at the same time, I'm like, she's 17. She's boy crazy. She doesn't know what she wants. She's not grown up enough to know what she wants. So like, I had to keep reminding myself of that, because I was like, oh my god, like, come on, get it together. But then be like, she's 17. She's 17. She's 17. And like, I tried to bring myself back when I was 17, and like, that just says it all. So I really enjoyed it. Like I said, just didn't enjoy it as much as the first one. I felt like the first one was so... This one's action-packed too, but action-packed in a different kind of way. This one tied up a lot of loose ends, I feel like, from the first one, so absolutely necessary, because the first one left so many questions, and this one I feel like answered a lot of the questions while also leaving things, or certain things open enough for there to be a third book, which there is, which I plan on reading, hopefully, this month. So, enjoyed it, didn't enjoy it as much as the first one, but still a solid sequel for a trilogy. And those are all of the books that I read in the month of October. Like I said, it was a bit of a smaller reading month for me, but still, I read some good things. We had some highs, we had some meh, and we had some lows. And you know what? That's an all in all good reading month for me. If you have read any of these, I would love to know your thoughts. I would also love to know what your favorite book of the month was. Did you have a favorite? What was your favorite? What was your least favorite? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Do not forget to subscribe if you are not already. Turn on the bell so you never miss a video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!
With you and I, the future